Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the vlog. So this was a little bit different from the other videos I shoot. I'm actually shooting this video for some help and suggestions on some problems that I was having with the DJI Spark. I'm not going to raise any alarms that this may be a bug or failure on DJI's part. It may just be something that I'm not used to seeing because I haven't tried it before. So it was July 3rd, and it was about 2 a.m. and I was bored, and I decided I was going to go out and try to get some night skyline shots of the city. And I went down to our riverfront area, and the first attempt I took off from my parking lot. I had two medium-sized buildings, maybe 10 or 12 stories tall, but they have some very bright, colorful billboards that I thought I could kind of pull back on and reveal the skyline of the city and all the lights in the background. That attempt went pretty good. I mean, I had no interference via Wi-Fi. I had a decent connection to the drone the whole time. I got the shot. A little grainy for my taste, but you know, it's not a DSLR camera. But I brought the drone back, landed it, no issues at all, and I didn't notice any issues during landing because I do remember having it at a hover for a minute while I was playing with some controls. No issues at all. So then I decided that I was going to go down to the actual riverfront area, which is sort of like a boardwalk area. And it's a decommissioned shipyard area, so it's right on the river, and there are some very large decommissioned cranes, and there's probably some metal ties or railroad track in the ground that those cranes used to kind of roll over that have been covered over with either asphalt or wood for a boardwalk. You have benches, you have metal railings, you have a bunch of light poles, you may have, and there's actually a bunch of trees and everything that kind of align the path of the walkway area there, or the river walk is what we call it. So first time that I noticed something wrong, I was trying to fly between or underneath two of the very large cranes that are positioned so that the path goes underneath of the feet that they roll around on, these very large train-like wheels that kind of sit on either side of the path. I was going to fly underneath both of them and kind of go from one to the next to try to get a cinematic shot there. And I noticed as I started flying underneath of it, the drone lost its hold. I guess I was in tripod mode. It lost its GPS hold and it started to drift to one side. So at that point I thought, hey, maybe I'm getting some magnetic interference. These are very large magnetic objects. I read in the manual you're supposed to stay away from large metal objects, and I would probably end up crashing my drone if I didn't. So I pulled out of that and I went to a different area. Now this is where it got a little bit confusing for me, because now I don't have these big giant metal cranes over top of me, and I'm starting to see some erratic behaviors from the Spark. So now I'm trying to shoot, if I have the video I'll post it here, I'm trying to shoot the boardwalk area where you have metal benches lining the boardwalk area, or the river walk path, and they're also lined with light poles. So you got maybe a couple light poles on each side, and you got a railing on this side kind of keeping me from falling in the river. You got a bunch of trees that kind of go in between all of that, and I'm trying to get that shot that I saw when I was standing there. So I'm standing there and I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. I want to fly down this path in tripod mode and get a nice cinematic shot. As I'm trying to line up my shot through the controller, I'm not seeing any warnings about magnetic interference. I'm not seeing any warnings about anything going wrong, and I start to notice that my image is starting to drift off. Now there was a gentle breeze, but it wasn't anything that I haven't seen the Spark fight before. So I look up, and sure enough, the Spark is floating off toward the river, and I'm like, hey, maybe that's just a coincidence. Maybe I'm underestimating the breeze that's blowing by, and the Spark, but like I said, the Spark is actually able to hold its own in a decent amount of wind. So I go back into it, so I'll try it again. Maybe when I launched it, I was on top of some metal that was underground, and I got a little bit, I got the compass calibration wrong, so I recalibrated it. I launched it again, trying to avoid any areas where there may be metal on the ground, so I launched it from the grass. And then as I'm trying to shoot that same shot again in tripod mode, now the Spark doesn't want to hold its altitude. It's flying at the altitude that it took off from, which is about 4.5 to 5 feet, and then all of a sudden it jumps up about to 7 or 8 feet. And I'm like, what is going on? Why is it doing this? So I'm thinking, what are the reasons that this would be doing this? And one of them was, again, I thought maybe I had some magnetic interference. I got all these metal benches. I've got these metal railings. It's got to be at least a 20-foot space between the benches and the railings. So I'm like, how far away do I have to be away from some large metal objects before I start getting that magnetic interference? And did I actually land or take off from another piece of metal that was under the ground? Again, I tried to recalibrate it, restarted the drone, take off and do it again, and it still didn't fix it. So now I'm thinking, hey, is it the fact that the Spark doesn't work well in low lit situations? And the reason I asked that question is because I actually had the Spark facing me at some point, and I could see the sensors in that little infrared looking lens thing here flashing away. And if you guys don't know it, the camera on the Spark is actually used for obstacle avoidance too. So when this goes into return to home mode, the camera, if you have it pitched down, will pitch up to the horizon and stay that way until it returns home, because it uses this camera the same way the Mavic Pro uses the 2 obstacle avoidance cameras, or the Phantom 4 uses the obstacle avoidance cameras that are built in on the legs. And I'm thinking maybe it's too dark, and maybe with all of the things that it's trying to process, it's low light. I've got a lot of light in the area though. I've got a bunch of very bright lights that kind of line that path. I've got the lights from the actual lamps that are in the area. Maybe it's not picking up on the obstacles, or it's over processing these obstacles, and it's trying some way to avoid them. That's the only other thing I could think of it doing it, and I was curious whether or not this thing works well at night. Should I have turned off obstacle avoidance and stopped it from doing that? Was it actually raising itself because it couldn't now tell how far it was from the ground, from the bottom obstacle avoidance, right? So this is what I'm asking you guys. Hey, give me some help here. Have you experienced any of this stuff? Tell me about how you've experienced magnetic interference. I've never flown next to anything big and metal to have any magnetic interference that would actually affect the drone. Was that one of the reasons? Have you tried to fly a Spark at night, and did it perform a little erratic because it couldn't tell what it was doing? And did you fix it by maybe turning off the obstacle avoidance settings? Now, I haven't been back out and I haven't tried it again, because as it was drifting away from me, again, there was a river to the right of me, and I was very scared at that point in time that something was wrong, and I did not want my drone to end up in the river, so I thought I would end it there, take it home, and kind of go over everything to make sure I didn't have any issues or errors. I went through all of the software to see if there were any warnings that were registering in the software. Nothing was there. I launched it in my living room. It held rock solid. I took it back outside. It held rock solid. But again, I had more light in my living room and outside here than I did at the riverfront. So I'm curious whether you guys have experienced any of this stuff. Please leave some comments below and tell me what you've experienced, not even with the Spark, but maybe with your Mavic Pro or your Phantom 4 when it comes to flying at night, or magnetic interference. Also, let me know what you did to fix it. All of us as a community may need to get together on this so that some of us don't lose our drones because we didn't know something that we should have already known. Hey guys, please help me out here. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the vlog. I really appreciate your help on this and any other comments or suggestions you've given me in the past. This was a little bit frustrating for me, and I really would like some help trying to figure it out. So I will talk to you soon. I'll get back to you. Bye.